I was bound to the cold operating table, the glaring lights blinding me. My husband, Julian, the coveted young master of the capital circle, stood outside the door. I heard his cold voice, like an ice-tempered knife, stabbing into my heart word by word. Extract the umbilical cord blood, immediately. The child. Doesn't matter. Doesn't matter. Our 7-month-old child was, in his mouth, just 3 words. Doesn't matter. Only to provide a life-saving medicine for his critically ill nephew, the only bloodline of his elder brother. Anesthesia was injected into my body, and before my consciousness sank, I had only one thought left. Julian, I hate you. If I can get out of here alive, I will make you your whole family pay for this blood debt with blood. Excruciating pain woke me from my coma. Not the pain of the surgery, but the pain of my heart being torn apart. The empty abdomen, like a mocking black hole, reminded me how that innocent little life was treated as discarded medical waste by its own father. I lay on the hospital bed, lifeless, like a breathing corpse. The Hayes family's bodyguards guarded the door, working in 24-hour shifts to prevent me from thinking too much or escaping. In their eyes, I was just a container who had completed her mission and posed a potential risk. Julian didn't appear again. Instead, his mother, the aloof Mrs. Hayes, strolled in with a portion of bird's nest soup. She placed the insulated container on the bedside table, looking down at me condescendingly, her eyes devoid of warmth, full of scrutiny and a lesson. Celeste, don't look like you're about to die. Our Hayes family hasn't treated you badly. She spoke slowly and methodically, as if discussing a business deal. Cody's condition has stabilized, thanks to that thing in your belly. She paused, seemingly feeling that even the word child was unworthy to be spoken from her mouth. This is a check for $5 million. The password is your birthday. Take the money and don't see Julian again. To the outside world, we'll say you're incompatible and divorced peacefully. I looked at that light check and suddenly laughed. The laughter was hoarse, like a broken bellows, growing louder and louder until tears uncontrollably welled up. $5 million. My child's life, in his grandmother's eyes, was worth $5 million. What? You think it's too little? Mrs. Hayes frowned, her face full of undisguised contempt. Celeste, you need to understand your place. Did you really think you could be the young mistress of the Hayes family? Julian only married you on a whim. Now you've done a little service for the Hayes family. This money is enough to keep you fed and clothed for the rest of your life. I stopped laughing and stared at her intently. Service? I asked word by word. My child in your eyes is just a little service. What else? She retorted righteously. An unformed embryo, able to save Cody's life, is his good fortune. Celeste, don't be ungrateful. Get out. I used all my strength to spit out this one word. Mrs. Hayes's face turned ashen instantly. She probably had never been contradicted like this before. She raised her hand, wanting to slap me, but seeing my haggard appearance, she disgustedly withdrew it, as if afraid of dirtying her hand. Ungrateful wretch. She snorted coldly, throwing the divorce agreement and a pen at me. Julian has already signed. You have to sign whether you want to or not. Don't force me to use other methods. After speaking, she walked away, her head held high, in her high heels. The room returned to deathly silence. I looked at the divorce agreement, the 3 words Julian written in a flamboyant style, piercing my eyes with pain. I picked up the pen, trembling, but not to sign. Instead, I used the tip of the pen to slash hard across those 3 words, until the paper was torn, leaving 3 hideous gashes. A blood debt must be repaid with blood. Julian, the Hayes family, I won't let any of you go. I started a hunger strike. Not eating, not drinking, not speaking. Doctors and nurses came to persuade me in turn, but I pretended not to hear them. They wanted to force-feed me with nutrients, but I struggled desperately, pulling out the needles until the back of my hand was covered in bruises. The Hayes family panicked. They weren't afraid of me dying, but they were afraid of me dying in the hospital, which would sound bad if it got out. A former daughter-in-law who died of a hunger strike after being forced to have an abortion was enough to stain the Hayes family's reputation with an indelible stain. On the 3rd day, Julian finally appeared. He was thinner, with faint dark circles under his eyes, but still with that aloof demeanor. He stood by the bed, silently looking at me for a long time. Have you made enough of a scene? He spoke first, his tone full of impatience. Celeste, stop playing these childish tricks, it's embarrassing. I slowly turned my head and looked at the face I had once loved to the bone. Now there was only bone-deep hatred left. Julian, my voice was as dry as sandpaper. You came to see me because you're afraid that if I die, I'll dirty your family's land? He frowned. What nonsense are you talking about? Cody was saved. Isn't that what you always hoped for? I laughed. I hoped he would be saved, but I never hoped to exchange my child's life for it. I almost roared. That was your own flesh and blood. How could you? How could you say the 3 words, doesn't matter? When those 3 words were mentioned, his eyes flickered, but then returned to their coldness. That was the only choice under the circumstances. Celeste, can you be rational? Cody is my elder brother's only son. Nothing can happen to him. So my child should die, is that right? He was silent. That silence was more hurtful than any defense. I ask you in your heart, what exactly do me and our child count for? I supported myself, asking him word by word, using the last of my strength. He looked at me, his thin lips parted, and uttered the most cruel words. Celeste, we're over. Sign the papers, take the money, and start your new life. This is good for all of us. All. Except for me and my dead child. My heart, at that moment, died completely. There was no warmth left. Okay. I looked at him calmly, unexpectedly calmly. I'll sign. He seemed relieved. But I have one condition. Speak. I want to see my child one last time. I said. I want to personally bury him. A trace of hesitation and reluctance flashed across Julian's face, but it was quickly replaced by determination. He has already been taken care of. Taken care of. I repeated these 3 words, feeling the blood in my whole body congeal. What do you mean taken care of? Like medical waste thrown away? Celeste. He raised his voice, seemingly stung by my words. People can't come back to life. Why are you dwelling on these things? I understood. I completely understood. In this man's heart, that little life, from beginning to end, had never been treated as a person. I closed my eyes and stopped looking at him. Bring the divorce agreement. Eat first. Bring it. He finally compromised. I took the agreement, and in the place of the 2 words Celeste, I signed my name, stroke by stroke. Then in front of him, I picked up the porridge from the bedside table and drank it, mouthful by mouthful, slowly. He looked at me, his eyes complex. Perhaps in his eyes, I had already accepted reality. Only I knew that from the moment I signed that name, I was no longer Celeste. I was a vengeful ghost crawling back from hell. And my remaining life had only one goal: revenge. On the day I was discharged from the hospital, the Hayes family sent a driver to pick me up. The car didn't head to the marital home Julian and I had once shared, but instead stopped in front of an unfamiliar apartment building. The driver handed me a key and a bank card. Miss Celeste, Julian instructed that this will be your residence from now on. There are 5 million in the card, and the password is still your birthday. He said he hopes you won't bother him again. I took it expressionlessly. Understood. I walked into the exquisitely decorated, yet lifeless apartment. This was the cage Julian had prepared for me. Using 5 million and an apartment to buy out our past, and also buy out my future. He thought that would make me stay put and disappear from his world forever. He underestimated me too much. And overestimated himself too much. I stayed in the apartment for 3 days. For 3 days I didn't go out, but used the computer to frantically search for everything. About umbilical cord blood transplants, about the Hayes family's industries, about Julian's business rivals. My body was still very weak, but my mind was clearer than ever. The Hayes family was a top-tier wealthy family in the capital, with deep roots in businesses spanning real estate, finance, and technology. With my current abilities, trying to shake it was like hitting a stone with an egg. I needed time, I needed capital, and even more, I needed an opportunity. On the 4th day, I dragged my suitcase out of the apartment. I didn't take a single thing from here, only the bank card with 5 million in it. This was what they owed my child. I was going to use this bloodstained money to ring the death knell for the Hayes family, for my child. I went to the airport and bought a one-way ticket to the south. The capital was the Hayes family's territory, and staying here was like walking into a trap. I had to leave, go somewhere they couldn't find me, and start over. As the plane took off, I looked at the city skyline outside the window getting smaller and smaller, my heart ice cold. Goodbye, Celeste. Goodbye, my once foolish love. From now on, there would be no more Celeste in the world. Only a woman living for revenge. I gave myself a new name, Stella. Stella Stars. I hoped that I could be like a star, emitting my own light even in the darkest night. Even if that light was the fire of revenge. The city I settled in was called Yin City, a southern metropolis known for technology and finance. It was full of opportunities, and also full of challenges. I used that $5 million to rent a small office and registered an investment consulting company. Everything is difficult at the beginning. In the early days, I practically lived in the office. During the day, I wore a business suit and high heels, going door to door to run clients, putting on a smiling face, handing out business cards, but often only getting disdainful and perfunctory glances. A company opened by a young girl? Only a few million in registered capital? Don't joke around. Miss Stella, we prefer to cooperate with experienced large companies. At night, I took off my high heels, changed into a t-shirt, and studied K-line charts and various financial reports while eating instant noodles, analyzing the market, and looking for potential investment opportunities. My body was already weak after the miscarriage, and the high-intensity work often made me feel dizzy. Several times, I almost fainted in the office. Whenever I couldn't hold on, I would think of that cold operating table, think of Julian's, it doesn't matter. Hatred was my best stimulant. It supported me, gritting my teeth, and walking forward step by step. The turning point came 3 months later. Through the analysis of market data, I keenly discovered the potential of a little-known startup technology company called Fengqi Technology. This company had leading artificial intelligence algorithm technology, but due to a lack of funds and market channels, it was on the verge of bankruptcy. Everyone treated it like a hot potato. But I bet all my assets, $5 million, all invested in it. My partner, and also my only friend, Marcus, a doctor who took me in when I was at my lowest, thought I was crazy. Stella, this is too risky. Once it fails, we'll have nothing. I met Marcus when I was having a physical examination at Yin City Hospital. He saw the depletion of my body and vaguely guessed my past. He didn't ask much, just silently gave me a lot of help. Later, he simply quit his job as a doctor and became my company's partner. Marcus, do you believe me? I looked at him, my eyes firm. He looked at the desperation in my eyes and finally sighed. I don't believe in you, I believe in your eyes. You seem to have never lost. I won. Half a year later, an international giant announced the acquisition of Fengqi Technology's core technology, and the stock price skyrocketed 20 times overnight. My $5 million became $100 million. I dug up my first bucket of gold. Star Capital. My company became famous in one battle. I began to emerge in the financial circles of Yin City. In the blink of an eye, it was 3 years. 3 years is enough for many things to change. My Star Capital was no longer that small workshop with only 2 people, but a star private equity fund that owned an entire floor of office buildings in Yin City's CBD and managed billions of funds. I was no longer the Stella who needed to put on a smiling face to beg for favors, but the Capital Queen, with a decisive and ruthless eye, as others called me. I cut my hair short and neatly, wore haute couture suits and high-heeled shoes, going in and out of various high-end cocktail parties and business forums. I was surrounded by all kinds of men, young and promising entrepreneurial newcomers, mature and stable business magnates. They showed me goodwill and expressed their admiration overtly or covertly. I politely and distantly rejected them all. My heart had died on that cold operating table 3 years ago. It couldn't accommodate anyone. For these 3 years, I deliberately didn't inquire about any news about the Hayes family. I was afraid that hearing their news would make me unable to control my hatred and make irrational moves. Revenge requires patience. I had to wait for the best opportunity to give them the most fatal blow. I thought that Julian and I would never have any intersection in this lifetime. Until that day, Marcus walked into my office with a somber face, holding a financial newspaper from the capital. Stella, take a look at this. The headline of the newspaper was a report on Hayes Group. The title was striking. Hayes Group faces liquidity crisis. Stock price falls for consecutive days. My heart suddenly skipped a beat. I took the newspaper and quickly browsed it. The report said that Hayes Group had been investing aggressively in recent years, especially in an overseas chip project in which it invested huge sums of money, but the project failed in research and development, leading to a break in the group's capital chain, a plunge in stock prices, and was on the verge of bankruptcy. And the last straw that broke the camel's back was an overseas fund called Chiming Venture Capital, which precisely shorted Hayes Group's stock behind the scenes. Chiming Venture Capital. My pupils suddenly contracted. Marcus looked at me and said softly, "This Chiming Venture Capital has a mysterious background. It only appeared a year ago, but it acts ruthlessly and specializes in sniping those large companies with unstable foundations. Their trading techniques are very similar to yours." Of course I know it's me, because Chiming Ventures was established overseas by my own hand. In the past 2 years, I have used it to snipe several targets, accumulating enough capital and experience. And Hayes Group is my true ultimate goal. I have waited too long for this day. Not enough. I put down the newspaper, my voice icy. This is just the beginning. Marcus looked at me, his eyes filled with worry and heartache. "Stella, are you really going to?" "Marcus," I interrupted him. 3 years ago, when I was lying on the hospital bed with nothing, I swore, everything I suffered, I will make them pay back double. My eyes did not waver in the slightest. Marcus was silent. He knew that no one could change my decision. "I'll help you." He finally only said these 3 words. The Hayes family's trouble is even more serious than the news reported on the newspaper. Through Chiming Ventures' overseas network, I easily obtained the most authentic financial data of Hayes Group. Heavily in debt, teetering on the brink of collapse. What they need most now is a huge amount of life-saving money, and there are only a handful of people in the whole country who can come up with this money and are willing to take a gamble. Unfortunately, my Starlight Capital is one of them. The opportunity has finally come. A week later, a grand business summit was held in Yun City. Almost all of the country's top entrepreneurs and investors received invitations. I knew that the Hayes family would definitely come. They will be like drowning people, grabbing any straw that might save their lives. That night of the summit, I wore a black backless gown, with exquisite makeup, and appeared in the banquet hall. My appearance immediately attracted everyone's attention. "It's Ms. Stella of Starlight Capital. Oh my God, she is even more beautiful than in the photos. She has such a presence. I heard she is the capital queen who can turn stone into gold. Her vision is too accurate." I listened to the discussions around me, without looking sideways, and walked straight to the center of the reception. I was like a queen, surveying my territory. Then in the crowd I saw him. Julian. It had been 3 years. He had lost a lot of weight, and his eyebrows were stained with an irreconcilable fatigue and anxiety. He was holding a wine glass, talking to a middle-aged man, with a forced smile on his face. Seemingly aware of my gaze, he subconsciously turned his head. Our eyes met. The air seemed to freeze at that moment. The smile on his face instantly froze, replaced by unbelievable shock. His lips parted slightly, as if he wanted to say something, but couldn't utter a word. The wine glass in his hand fell to the ground with a clang, and the red wine spilled all over the floor, like blood. Everyone's eyes were attracted by the sound, but I just curled my lips faintly, raised the champagne in my hand, and toasted him from afar. Then I turned around and walked to the other side, leaving him standing there alone, lost in his soul. "Julian, long time no see. Our game is now officially beginning. Miss Stella, I've admired your name for a long time." A gentle and elegant voice interrupted my thoughts. I turned around and saw a man in a suit and leather shoes, smiling at me. "I'm Nathan from Xingyuan Group." Xingyuan Group is also one of the potential saviors of the Hayes Group crisis this time. Mr. Nathan, hello. I didn't expect Ms. Stella to be so young and beautiful. Truly, women do not concede to men. Nathan politely complimented. "I have long heard of Ms. Stella's legend in the investment world. It's an honor to meet you today." "Mr. Nathan, you flatter me." After we exchanged a few pleasantries, Nathan quickly got to the point. What does Ms. Stella think of the current situation of Hayes Group? I shook the champagne in my glass and smiled faintly. Just a crumbling giant. A gleam flashed in Nathan's eyes. Oh, Ms. Stella doesn't seem to be optimistic about Hayes Group's prospects. It's not that I'm not optimistic, I said, but I don't think it's necessary for it to stand up again. The old era is over, and there always needs to be a new era coming, right? My words were meaningful. Nathan was a smart man. He immediately understood my implication. It seems that Ms. Stella and I have the same idea. He smiled. Then I wish us a happy cooperation. Happy cooperation. I clinked glasses with him. We both knew very well that the so-called cooperation was to join forces and completely dissect and devour this dying beast of Hayes Group. As soon as I turned around, I saw Julian staring at me intently. His eyes were full of pain, regret, and a trace of plea that I couldn't understand. He walked towards me, his steps a little unsteady. The people around him sensibly dispersed, leaving space for us. Celeste. He opened his mouth, his voice terribly hoarse. Is that you? I looked at him like I was looking at a stranger. Sir, you've mistaken me. My tone was distant. My name is Stella Sue. No, you are Celeste. He was a little emotional and wanted to come forward and grab my hand. I took a step back, avoiding his touch. Marcus appeared beside me at some point, blocking between me and Julian. Sir, please respect yourself. Marcus's voice was cold. Julian looked at Marcus, then looked at me. The pain in his eyes deepened. Who is he? He asked me, like an abandoned, resentful husband. I found it extremely ridiculous. Who he is has nothing to do with you. I asked coldly. Julian, if you want to talk about investment with Starlight Capital, please make an appointment with my assistant. If you want to reminisce, sorry, we have nothing to reminisce about. After speaking, I took Marcus's arm and turned to leave. Don't go. Julian roared behind me. Celeste, let me explain. What happened back then, it's not what you think. I stopped, but did not turn around. Oh, then what is it? I chuckled, my tone full of sarcasm. Did I lie on the operating table myself, begging the doctor to kill my child? He was choked by my words and couldn't say a word. His face was as pale as paper. I know you hate me, he said with difficulty. In these 3 years, not a day has gone by that I haven't been looking for you. Looking for me? I finally turned around and looked straight into his eyes. Looking for me for what? Did you find out your nephew's illness relapsed, needing another transplant, so you remembered me, this excellent blood bank? My words, like the sharpest knife, accurately stabbed into his most painful spot. He shuddered all over, as if struck by lightning. How could you? He looked at me in shock, as if looking at a devil. Yes, I had found out long ago. His precious nephew Cody had a relapse of aplastic anemia a year ago. And it was even more serious than last time. The Hayes family had searched bone marrow banks all over the world, but couldn't find a suitable match. The doctor said that the best way was still umbilical cord blood stem cell transplantation. So they remembered me. Remembered me, the woman who had once contributed a child for them. How ridiculous. Discarded like old shoes back then, now they want to find me back as a savior. Julian. I looked at his pained face, without a trace of emotion in my heart, only the pleasure of revenge. I'm telling you, even if all the women in the world die, I will never give birth to another child for you. Just give up that thought. My words plunged the entire banquet hall into silence. Everyone looked at us with shocked and curious gazes. Julian's face lost all color. He staggered back a step, as if all his strength had been drained from him. No. It's not like that. Celeste, I looked for you not because of Cody. He defended anxiously, his voice carrying a trace of pleading. I just miss you, I regret it, I really regret it. Regret? I felt like I had heard the funniest joke of the century. What do you regret? Regretting that you didn't kill me with one knife back then, to eliminate future troubles? That's not what I meant. He closed his eyes in pain. I know I was wrong, I was a bastard. Give me a chance, let me make it up to you, okay? Make it up. I walked towards him step by step, the sound of my high heels on the floor. crisp and clear, each step like stepping on his heart. I walked up to him, looked directly into his bloodshot eyes, and said, word by word, "Okay, you want to make it up to me, it's very simple." A glimmer of hope instantly ignited in his eyes. "You say it, as long as I can do it, I'm willing to do anything." I laughed brightly, but coldly and piercingly. "Give me back my child." The hope on his face instantly froze, then shattered inch by inch. "Give me back the child that you treated like medical waste, completely and perfectly. Can you do that?" He opened his mouth but couldn't make a sound. His throat felt like it was blocked by a wad of cotton. "You can't, can you?" I put away my smile, my eyes as cold as ice. "Since you can't do it, don't talk to me about any bullshit amends. Julian, put away your cheap affection and regret. I find it disgusting." I dropped these words, didn't look at him again, and turned to leave. Marcus immediately followed, using his body to separate the probing gazes. I could feel the scorching gaze behind me, following me until I walked out of the banquet hall. Only after getting into the car did I take off all my disguise. My body trembled uncontrollably. Marcus took a blanket from the back seat, draped it over me, and then started the car. "It's all over." "No." I looked at the fleeting night scenery outside the window, the chill in my voice unmelting. "This is just the beginning. Tonight was just an appetizer. The real feast is yet to come." Julian, the Hayes family. Are you ready to welcome my revenge feast? The next day, Starlight Capital and Xinyuan Group jointly launched a takeover bid for Hayes Group. As soon as the news came out, the entire financial circle exploded. Hayes Group's stock price immediately fell to the limit. When a wall falls, everyone pushes it down, and the banks and partners who had previously called the Hayes family brothers and sisters came to demand debts and disassociate themselves. The Hayes family, overnight, fell from the clouds into the mud. I sat in my office, looking at the green K-line chart on the screen, but my mood was unusually calm. The assistant knocked on the door and came in. "Miss Stella, the chairman of Hayes Group, Arthur, wants to see you." Arthur, Julian's father, the helmsman of the Hayes family. An old fox, as cold-blooded and ruthless as my mother-in-law. "Tell him I'm busy, I don't have time." "But," he said, "he's waiting downstairs." I raised my eyes and looked out the window. Downstairs, a black Bentley was parked on the side of the road. Next to the car stood an old man with gray hair, but still upright. It was Arthur. He was more composed than his son. "Let him wait," I said faintly. "I want to make him wait. I want him to taste what it was like when I was lying in the hospital, alone and helpless, waiting bitterly." I waited, and made him wait for a full 3 hours. It wasn't until the afternoon, close to the end of work, that I had the assistant invite him up. Arthur walked into my office, unable to see any emotion on his face, but the fatigue in his eyes couldn't be concealed. "Miss Stella, what a big show." As soon as he opened his mouth, he carried a bit of an accusatory tone. I smiled and motioned for him to sit down. "Mr. Arthur, please forgive me, there are many things to do in the company, I really couldn't spare the time." I personally poured him a cup of tea. "I don't know what brings Mr. Arthur here." An honest man doesn't speak secret words. Arthur got straight to the point. "Ms. Stella, or rather, should I call you Celeste? You came back this time. Is it to take revenge on the Hayes family?" "Revenge?" I pretended to be surprised. "Mr. Arthur, what are you talking about? The business world is like a battlefield. I'm just doing what a businessman should do, pursuing maximum profit. Hayes Group is now a piece of fat. Everyone wants to take a bite, isn't that so? You don't need to pretend to be stupid with me." Arthur obviously didn't have much patience. "I know you hate us, hate Julian. But you can come at us. Why attack the company? The company is innocent." I almost laughed out loud. "Innocent? Mr. Arthur, are you talking to me about innocence?" I put down the teacup, my eyes instantly turning cold. 3 years ago, when you forced me to abort the child, why didn't you think that my child was innocent? That's different." He raised his voice. "Cody's life is a life, you're that. Can it compare to Cody?" It's those words again. In their eyes, the life of my child is always inferior. In my eyes, there's no difference. I looked at him coldly. "My child's life is a life. And your grandson's life is also a life. You can sacrifice my child to save your grandson. Then, what's wrong with me destroying your Hayes family to avenge my child? You. Arthur was speechless, trembling with anger. Mr. Arthur, I advise you to go back and prepare for the upcoming debt crisis. I picked up my teacup, dismissing him. After all, you don't have much time left. Arthur stared at me intently, his eyes full of resentment. Celeste, don't be too smug. Even a rabbit bites when cornered. Pushing us too far won't do you any good. Is that so? I'll be waiting. I shrugged indifferently. Let's see if the Hayes family collapses first, or if I get bitten to death by you. Arthur finally stormed off in anger. Watching his aged back, I felt no sympathy. They brought this on themselves. Not long after Arthur left, I received an unexpected call. It was Julian's mother, my former mother-in-law. Her voice was no longer the arrogant, superior tone from 3 years ago, but filled with anxiety and a suppressed anger. Celeste, what exactly do you want? Give me back Julian. I was stunned for a moment before I realized what she meant. Mrs. Hayes, what do you mean by that? I don't understand. Don't play dumb with me. She shrieked on the other end. Ever since Julian saw you the other day, he's locked himself in his room, not eating or drinking, refusing to see anyone. If anything happens to him, I'll never forgive you. I suddenly felt a sense of irony. Hunger strike. Wasn't that the tactic I used 3 years ago? How the tables have turned. Mrs. Hayes, your son is an adult. He can do whatever he wants. Instead of calling me to question me, you should reflect on what you yourselves have done. What have we done? We were just trying to save Cody. Cody is his own nephew. Shouldn't he, as an uncle, do that? She continued to justify herself. Then wasn't my child his own flesh and blood? I retorted with a cold laugh. Silence fell on the other end of the line. Celeste, let bygones be bygones. After a long while, her tone softened with a hint of pleading. I know we've wronged you. Whatever compensation you want, just name it. As long as we can do it, we'll give it to you. Please let Julian go, and let the Hayes family go too. Let go. I repeated the words softly, as if I had heard the biggest joke in the world. Back then, did any of you ever think about letting me go? Where were you when I was lying on the operating table? Where were you when I lost my child and was in so much pain? When you took out a $5 million check and dismissed me like a beggar, did you ever think there would be a day like today? With each question I asked, her breathing on the other end became more hurried. In the end, there was only suppressed sobbing. Mrs. Hayes, there's no such thing as a regret pill in this world. You have to pay the price for the sins you've committed. And I'm here to collect the debt. With that, I hung up the phone. I leaned back in my chair, closing my eyes. The position of my heart felt empty, yet heavy. The pleasure of revenge did not make me feel relaxed. Instead, there was an inexplicable fatigue. Marcus pushed the door open and handed me a glass of warm water. Don't think too much, he said softly. You did nothing wrong. I took the glass and held it in my hand, feeling the little bit of warmth. Yes, I was not wrong. They were the ones who were wrong. I was just taking back the justice that was rightfully mine. The Hayes family situation was becoming more difficult day by day. Under the joint short selling by me and Nathan, Hayes Group's stock had become worthless paper. Demand letters from banks flew in like snowflakes. Partners terminated contracts one after another, and some executives and core technical personnel began to seek other opportunities. The once powerful business empire was now precarious, on the verge of collapse. I thought Julian would keep hiding. Unexpectedly, he took the initiative to find me. That day, I had just finished a meeting and walked out of the company gate when I saw him standing there. He was wearing a crumpled shirt, unshaven, with sunken eyes, and looked utterly haggard. Not even a shadow of the prestigious young master of the Beijing circle remained. When he saw me, a glimmer of light burst into his eyes, and he strode towards me. The company's security guards immediately stepped forward to stop him. Let him come over, I said calmly. Only then did the security guards let him pass. He walked up to me, stopping a step away. We just looked at each other like that, neither of us speaking first. The surrounding employees cast curious glances, whispering to each other. Isn't that Julian from Hayes Group? What happened to him? What's he doing looking for Miss Stella? Is he here to beg for mercy? Look at Miss Stella's expression, cold as ice. It definitely won't be good. Celeste. Finally, he broke the silence. His voice was so hoarse it was almost unrecognizable. Can we talk, please? What is there to talk about between us? Please. He looked at me, his eyes reddening. Just 5 minutes. Looking at him like this, I felt no pity. I nodded. Let's go to the coffee shop across the street. I didn't want the company's employees to see any more of a joke. In the coffee shop, we sat facing each other. He ordered a black coffee. I only asked for a glass of water. What do you want to talk about? I cut straight to the chase. He picked up the coffee and took a big gulp, as if he wanted to use the bitterness to suppress the pain in his heart. I know you hate me, hate the Hayes family. Everything you've done is the retribution we deserve. He looked at me, his eyes filled with remorse that could not be dispelled. But Celeste, the company is inanimate, the employees are innocent. Can you show some mercy and give Hayes Group a chance to survive? A chance to survive. I laughed. Julian, aren't you mistaken? I'm a businessman, not a philanthropist. Acquiring Hayes Group for me is a profitable deal. Why should I give it up? I can use everything I own to compensate you. He said eagerly. My shares, my house, my car, everything I own, I can give it to you. I only ask that you let the company go. Everything you own? I raised an eyebrow, pretending to think. Sounds tempting, but... I paused, looking at his nervous expression, and said word by word, I'm not interested in anything you own. I'm only interested in destroying the Hayes family. His face turned deathly pale in an instant. Why? He asked painfully. Do you have to be so ruthless? We were husband and wife after all. Husband and wife? The two words were like a needle, piercing fiercely into my heart. Julian, how can you even mention husband and wife to me? My voice suddenly turned cold. Back then, when you stood outside the operating room and said coldly, the child doesn't matter. Did you treat me as your wife? When your mother took a $5 million check and told me to get out of the Hayes family, did you treat me as your wife? When you left me alone in the hospital, letting me fend for myself, did you treat me as your wife then? My questions, one after another, were like heavy hammers, pounding fiercely on his heart. He leaned weakly against the back of the chair, holding his head in his hands, groaning in pain. Stop. Stop it. Why shouldn't I say it? You dared to do it, but you're afraid of me saying it. I stood up, looking down at him condescendingly. Julian, remember this. We are no longer husband and wife. From the moment you decided to sacrifice my child, we became enemies. Irreconcilable enemies. I dropped those words and turned to leave, leaving him alone in the cafe, collapsing and crying in pain. After leaving the cafe, I went straight home. As soon as I entered, I saw Marcus busy in the kitchen. He was wearing an apron, making dinner for me. Seeing me return, he smiled. You're back? Perfect timing. Dinner will be ready soon. For the past 3 years, he had been by my side. He was not only my partner, but also my only family. He knew all my pain and hatred, and unconditionally supported all my decisions. He was like a light, giving me the only warmth in my dark world. What's wrong? You don't look well. He came out of the kitchen with a dish, seeing the fatigue on my face. It's nothing, just saw Julian. Marcus paused for a moment, then returned to normal. He came to beg you? Yeah. What did you say? I told him to get lost. Marcus laughed. I knew it. He put the dish on the table and poured me a bowl of soup. Drink some soup first, warm your stomach. I took the soup, but didn't drink it. Marcus, I looked at him and asked softly, do you think I'm too cruel? Marcus wiped his hands and sat down opposite me. He looked at me seriously and shook his head. No, he said. I just think you've suffered too much. Stella, I know that everything you're doing isn't just for revenge. You're also forcing yourself to make a clean break with the past. The hurdle in your heart is too deep. If you don't completely tear down the Hayes family, you'll never be able to get over it. My eyes instantly turned red. In this world, only he understood me the most. He understood the heart with 1,000 holes under my glamorous exterior. He understood the unknown fragility under all my hard armor. Eat quickly. He put a piece of food in my bowl. Only by eating well will you have the strength to continue fighting. I nodded, lowered my head, and ate ravenously. Tears, however, uncontrollably fell into the bowl. Salty, astringent. The same taste as all the nights of the past 3 years. The collapse of the Hayes Group was faster than I had expected. Under the double attack of Nathan and me, in less than a month, Hayes Group officially declared bankruptcy and liquidation. The day the news broke, the entire business community was shocked. A commercial empire that had stood for decades had collapsed. I stood in front of the floor-to-ceiling window in my office, looking at the bustling city below, but in my heart, there was no joy as I had imagined, only a vast emptiness. I won, but the child I lost could never come back. The phone rang. It was an unfamiliar number. I answered it, and a weak and elderly voice came from the other end of the line. Is this Celeste? It was Arthur. His voice no longer had the previous arrogance, only endless decadence and desolation. It's me. I want to see you, he said, one last time. I was silent for a moment, then agreed. Okay. The meeting place was arranged at the Hayes family's old mansion, the place where I had once lived as the mistress, and had been driven out of in such a miserable state. I drove to the gate of the old mansion. The gate was open, and everything inside was desolate. The once manicured garden was now overgrown with weeds. I walked into the living room and saw Arthur sitting alone on the sofa. In just 1 month, he looked like he had aged more than 10 years, his head full of white hair, and his back hunched over. When he saw me, a complex emotion flashed in his turbid eyes. You're here, Mr. Arthur. What did you want to see me about? He didn't answer me, but instead took out a wooden box from under the coffee table and handed it to me. What is this? I asked. Open it and see. I hesitated for a moment, but still took it and opened the box. Inside the box was a set of small baby clothes, a pair of tiger head shoes, and a longevity lock. All of them were prepared by me for my unborn child. I thought these things had long been thrown away by them. My hands began to tremble uncontrollably. Julian. He kept them all along, Arthur said hoarsely. After you left, he locked himself in the nursery for 3 days and 3 nights. Later he locked all these things up. He said it was what he owed you and your child. Looking at those things, I could no longer hold back my tears. What's the point of saying this now? I said, choking. There's no point. Arthur closed his eyes in pain. I know it's too late to say anything. We, the Hayes family, lost completely. I asked you to come here today, not to beg you. I just want to tell you one thing. He looked at me and said, word by word. Cody, he passed away last night. My whole body shook. What? Complications, he couldn't be saved. Arthur's voice was filled with despair. Our family is finished. Completely finished. This is karma, he said with a bitter smile. We killed your child to save him. Now he's gone anyway. We have nothing left. I looked at his desperate face, my heart filled with mixed feelings. I hated them, wished their family was ruined. But when it really happened, I didn't feel any joy, only absurdity and pity. Celeste. Arthur stood up and bowed deeply to me. I'm sorry. This apology was 3 years too late, and couldn't bring anything back. I hugged the wooden box, turned around, and walked out of the Hayes family mansion. The sunlight outside was a bit blinding. I looked up at the sky, as if I saw my lost child, smiling at me. Baby, Mom has avenged you. You can rest in peace now. The Hayes family's bankruptcy, and that final meeting with Arthur, were like a rest stop, punctuating my 3-year path of revenge. I ruined their company, made them taste the pain of losing a loved one. I won this war, but deep down, I felt like I'd been hollowed out. I started having frequent dreams. In the dreams, it was no longer the cold operating table and Julian's heartless face, but a blurry little figure, giggling and reaching out to me with tiny hands, calling me softly, Mommy. Every time I woke up from the dream, I would be in tears, my heart aching so much I couldn't breathe. Marcus was very worried about me. He canceled all my work arrangements and forcibly took me to the beach for a vacation. We rented a house on a quiet island. During the day, we walked together on the beach, watching the sunrise and sunset. At night, we sat in the yard, listening to the sound of the waves, watching the starry sky. He didn't ask anything, just silently stayed by my side. One night, we had some wine. I leaned back in the lounge chair, looking at the night sky, and suddenly asked him, "Marcus, what do you think happens after people die? Do they become stars in the sky?" He was silent for a moment and said, "Yes." "Then which star do you think my baby is?" He turned to look at me seriously, and pointed to the brightest star in the night sky. "That one," he said, "the brightest, the most beautiful one. He will be in the sky, protecting you forever." My tears flowed again. But I wasn't a good mother. I choked out, "I lost him." "No, you didn't." Marcus took my hand. His hand was warm and strong. "You are a great mother. You got justice for him." "Stella, it's all over. Your life has just begun. Forget them and forgive yourself, okay?" I looked at him, at the sincerity and heartache in his eyes. If it hadn't been for him these 3 years, I might have collapsed a long time ago. He is the light in my life. I grasped his hand back and nodded. "Okay." After returning from the island, I felt much better. I began to try to put the past behind me. I handed over most of the affairs of Xingchen Capital to Marcus to manage, and I set up a charitable foundation, specializing in helping poor children with congenital diseases. I wanted to use this method to accumulate some blessings for my lost child. I thought Julian and I would never meet again in this lifetime. Until that day, I received a call from a mental hospital. "Are you Ms. Celeste? We have a patient here named Julian. He keeps calling your name, and is very emotionally unstable. Would it be convenient for you to come over?" I was stunned. Julian, admitted to a mental hospital? I originally wanted to refuse. But as if possessed, I still agreed. I just wanted to see what the once high and mighty prince of the Beijing Circle had become. At the hospital, I saw him. He was wearing blue and white striped hospital clothes. Huddled in a corner of the ward, his hair was long, his eyes were dull, and he kept muttering something. Seeing me, he looked like a frightened rabbit, and suddenly raised his head. His eyes instantly lit up. "Celeste. Celeste, you're here." He struggled to stand up, but because he hadn't moved for too long, his legs buckled and he fell to the ground. He crawled towards me clumsily, like a dog. "Celeste, you're finally willing to see me." "I knew it. You still have me in your heart." I stood at the door, watching him coldly. "Julian, what's the point of you pretending to be crazy?" He was stunned, then shook his head frantically. "I'm not pretending. I'm not. I'm really sick." He pointed to his head and said painfully, "It hurts so much here every day. As soon as I close my eyes, I see you lying on the operating table, and the child. And the child covered in blood. They're all cursing me, saying I'm not human, saying I killed my own child." He hugged his head and screamed in pain. The doctors and nurses heard the sound and came to give him a sedative. He gradually calmed down and lay on the ground, like a puddle of mud. But his eyes were still fixed on me. His eyes were filled with endless despair and pleading. "Celeste, save me. I'm so miserable." I looked at him, without a trace of emotion in my heart. Misery. Is his current misery even 1/10,000th of what I went through back then? "Julian," I walked up to him, squatted down and looked at him calmly. "You deserve this. Just embrace your regret and pain, and spend the rest of your life here. This is the last mercy I'll show you." With that, I stood up and walked out of the ward without looking back. Behind me came his heart-wrenching cries. "Celeste, don't go. I beg you, don't go." I didn't stop. Outside the hospital, the sun was shining brightly. I took a deep breath, feeling the huge stone that had been pressing on my heart for many years finally being removed. It's all over. Truly over. After leaving the mental hospital, my life completely returned to peace. Xingchen Capital was thriving under Marcus's management. My charitable foundation was also helping more and more children. I devoted most of my time and energy to work. I thought I would live like this, alone, for the rest of my life. Until Marcus proposed to me. That day was my birthday. He booked the entire restaurant to celebrate my birthday. Amidst the melodious sounds of a violin, He knelt down on one knee and produced a diamond ring. Stella, he gazed at me with deep affection. I know you've suffered a lot in the past. I wouldn't presume to completely heal your wounds, but I hope to be by your side, using the rest of my life to help you relearn how to laugh, how to love. Will you marry me? Everyone in the restaurant was clapping and cheering. Marry him. Marry him. I looked at him, my eyes brimming with tears. I had witnessed his dedication over the past 3 years. He was the most important person in my life. But could I really? Did I, with such a broken heart, still deserve happiness? I hesitated. Marcus saw my apprehension. He stood up, walked over to me, and gently embraced me. It's okay. He whispered in my ear. I can wait. I'll wait until you're ready. My tears could no longer be contained and gushed out. I hugged him back, nodding vigorously. I will. I heard myself say. Marcus, I will. Marcus and I had a very low-key wedding. We only invited a few of our closest friends. There were no grand scenes, no media flashes. Only the most sincere blessings. At the wedding, I wore a pure white wedding dress, and I walked arm in arm with Marcus towards the priest. I saw the smile and tenderness in his eyes. At that moment, I felt like the happiest woman in the world. I thought this was the final chapter of my life, an ending that, despite past pain, was ultimately perfect. However, life is always full of surprises. I became pregnant in the 2nd year of our marriage. When the ultrasound report showed that little gestational sac, my feelings were complex. There was joy, there was anticipation, but more than anything, there was fear. I was afraid. I was afraid history would repeat itself. I was afraid that I wouldn't be able to protect this child. That sealed, dark memory resurfaced like a nightmare. I began to suffer from insomnia, anxiety, and even developed a resistance to Marcus. Marcus noticed my abnormal behavior. He stopped all his work and stayed by my side 24 hours a day. He took me to see a psychologist, accompanied me to prenatal checkups, told me jokes, and cooked me all sorts of delicious food. He used his love and patience to gradually dispel the gloom in my heart. Stella, he hugged me and said softly, don't be afraid, I'm here. This time, I will definitely not let anyone hurt you and the baby. With his companionship, I slowly came out of the shadows. I began to look forward to the arrival of this little life. I prepared a nursery for him and bought a lot of beautiful clothes and toys. I wanted to give him the best things in the world. The pregnancy went smoothly. 10 months later, I successfully gave birth to a healthy boy. When the nurse brought the baby to me, I looked at his wrinkled little face, and tears streamed down my face instantly. This was my child. Marcus and my child. I carefully kissed his forehead. Baby, welcome to this world. The birth of the child brought endless joy to our lives. He looked a lot like Marcus, especially his eyes, which were clear and bright, like the stars in the sky. We named him Stellan. Missing stars, thinking of stars. It was both a commemoration of my past and an expectation of his future. I became a complete child slave. The happiest thing every day was to be with him, watching him laugh, watching him play, watching him grow up day by day. I thought my life would continue like this, in plainness and happiness. Until one day, when I was walking with Stellan in the park, I encountered an uninvited guest, Julian's mother. After not seeing her for a few years, she looked much older. Her hair was completely white, and her face was covered with wrinkles. When she saw me, she was stunned for a moment, and then her gaze fell on Stellan in my arms. Her eyes lit up instantly. Is this your child? She asked, trembling. I subconsciously hugged Stellan tighter and looked at her warily. Mrs. Hayes, we have nothing to do with each other anymore. I know. She wrung her hands, saying with uneasiness, I'm not here to make trouble for you. I just want to see. Her gaze never left Stellan. That look was full of longing and a hint of guilt. He's so handsome, she murmured. Just like Julian when he was little. I felt a surge of disgust in my heart. His last name is Lin. I coldly corrected her. He is my husband's and my child, and has nothing to do with your Hayes family. My words were like a bucket of cold water, extinguishing the light in her eyes. The expression on her face became very unpleasant. I know. She lowered her head, her voice with a hint of sobbing. Celeste, I know I'm sorry for you. I'm old, I won't live for a few more years. I just want to see you one last time before I die, to see the child. I beg you, just let me hold him, okay? Just for a moment. She stretched out her withered hands to me, her eyes full of supplication. I looked at her, and there was not the slightest wavering in my heart. Hold him. What right did she have? Back then, who was it who called my child a malformed embryo? Who was it who regarded him as a medicine to save her grandson? Impossible. I refused coldly. Mrs. Hayes, please don't appear in front of us again in the future. I don't want my child to be disturbed by irrelevant people. After saying that, I hugged Stellan and turned to leave. Behind me came her suppressed sobs. I didn't look back. Some people, some things are never worth forgiving. I thought this matter was over. Unexpectedly, a few days later, Marcus received a phone call. It was Arthur calling. He made an absurd request over the phone. He wanted to see Stellan, and was willing to give all that remained of the Hayes family's assets, roughly several $100 million, in exchange. Marcus refused on the spot. Mr. Hayes, I think you're mistaken. My son is priceless. He's not a commodity to be traded. After hanging up, Marcus told me about it. I was shaking with anger. Are they crazy? What right do they have? Don't be angry. Marcus reassured me. I've already refused. They won't bother us again. However, I underestimated their shamelessness. A few days later, a news story quietly fermented online. Former heiress remarries with child, biological father's family denied meeting grandson. Is it callous indifference or something else? The news story embellished the Hayes family's tragic situation and my cold-hearted behavior as their former daughter-in-law. It also included several paparazzi photos. One was of me walking with Stellan in the park, and another was of Mother Goo leaving dejectedly. Public opinion exploded instantly. Many uninformed netizens began to criticize me harshly. This woman is too cruel, right? They're still the child's grandparents. What's wrong with a meeting? Yeah, a day of being a couple is 100 days of grace. You can't be so heartless. I heard the Hayes family went bankrupt. She's climbing the social ladder and forgetting the old ones. I feel sorry for the Hayes family, so tragic. I felt cold all over as I looked at those disgusting comments. Turning black and white, confusing right and wrong. To achieve their goals, they were actually resorting to using public opinion to blackmail me. Marcus was also very angry. He immediately had the company's public relations team handle the matter. But the effect was minimal. Because the Hayes family had hired a professional internet troll army behind the scenes, constantly stirring things up. They portrayed themselves as victims, gaining a lot of sympathy, and I became a gold-digging, ruthless and heartless woman. During that time, I didn't dare to go out or go online. I was afraid of seeing those malicious speculations and scoldings. Even more, I was afraid that these rumors would hurt my child. Just when I was exhausted, Julian appeared again. He found out my home address from somewhere. That night, he waited downstairs at my house. When he saw Marcus and me returning, he rushed forward. Celeste. He looked more normal than when he was in the mental hospital. But he was still haggard, his eyes full of biased madness. Marcus immediately shielded me behind him. Julian, what do you want? I don't want anything. Julian looked at me, his eyes bloodshot. I just want to ask you one question. Is that child mine? I was stunned. Then, I felt it was absurd and ridiculous. Are you crazy? I'm not crazy. He roared excitedly. People online are saying he looks like me. Tell me, is he my child? Did you deliberately lie to me that the child was aborted to get revenge on me, and then secretly give birth to him? What on earth was he thinking? Julian, listen clearly. I looked at him word by word clearly. My child was killed by you with your own hands 3 years ago. This child now is my rebirth. His surname is Lin, and he has nothing to do with you or your Hayes family. I don't believe it. He shook his head frantically. You're lying to me. You must be lying to me. Celeste, give me back the child, okay? He's the Hayes family's only root. I beg you. He actually wanted to come forward and snatch Stellan from my arms. Marcus kicked him, knocking him to the ground. "Julian, if you dare to touch my wife and child again, I'll make sure you never get out of the police station in this lifetime." Marcus's eyes were full of anger. Julian fell to the ground, howling and crying like a mad dog. "My child. My child." Looking at him like this, I only felt endless sadness. To what extent does a person have to be biased to become like this? I held the frightened Stellan and went home with Marcus. Behind us, Julian's desperate cries were still heard. That night I made a decision. I couldn't continue to be passive like this. For my child, for my family, I had to stand up. The next day, in the name of the person in charge of Xinqian Capital and the Charity Foundation, I held a press conference. All the mainstream media were present. Standing under the spotlights, facing countless cameras and microphones, I felt unusually calm inside. I didn't accuse, nor did I sell sympathy. I simply calmly told everything that had happened to me 3 years ago. From being forced to become pregnant to being forced to have a labor induction. From how the Hayes family used $5 million to get rid of me, to how they treated my child's body as medical waste. I took out the medical records from that year, and the divorce agreement signed with Julian's name. I also released a recording. It was what I recorded with my mobile phone when Julian stood outside the operating room and said to the doctor, "I don't care about the child." That was what I did with the last bit of strength I had before being pushed into the operating room. I originally wanted to take this secret to the grave. But now, in order to protect my family, I had to make it public. When that cold and unfeeling recording was transmitted throughout the venue through the microphone, the whole place was dead silent. All the reporters were so shocked that they couldn't speak. They looked at me. Their eyes changed from the previous curiosity and questioning to sympathy and anger. Everyone, I looked at the camera, my voice not loud but resonant. This is the whole truth of the matter. I, Celeste, used to be the Hayes family's daughter-in-law, but now I am Marcus's wife and Stellan's mother. I just want to live a peaceful life and don't want to have any more involvement with the past. I'm standing up today not to gain sympathy, nor to take revenge on anyone. I just want to tell some people that my child is not a bargaining chip that you can freely exploit and tamper with. If you dare to hurt my family again, I, Celeste, will definitely do everything I can to fight to the end. After speaking, I bowed deeply to all the cameras. Then, under Marcus's protection, I left the venue. After the press conference, public opinion completely reversed. Online there was a flood of condemnations and denunciations of the Hayes family. Damn. Are these still humans? Even tigers don't eat their cubs. So disgusting. To save a nephew, they killed their own son? What kind of demonic family is this? That Julian, he's the scum of the earth. That whatever in the recording, it gave me chills. My heart aches for Celeste, she's been through so much. Support the goddess. We can't be soft on this kind of scum. The Hayes family became social pariahs, hated by everyone. Arthur and Mrs. Hayes didn't dare to go out anymore. And Julian, under the immense pressure from public opinion and mental stimulation, completely went insane. He was sent to a heavily guarded, closed psychiatric hospital, where it said he only cried and screamed, "My child," and couldn't say anything else. A once unstoppable powerhouse family from the capital's elite circles, in this most embarrassing and shameful way, completely withdrew from the stage of history. Everything they had done ultimately backfired on themselves. And I finally welcomed a true rebirth. Marcus and I, with Stellan, moved to a quiet seaside town. We bought a house with a yard. I planted the yard full of flowers. Marcus built a swing set for Stellan in the yard. Every day, Marcus and I would push Stellan together, walking along the beach, watching the sunset stretch the shadows of our family of 3, very long. Stellan grew up day by day. He learned to walk, he learned to talk. He would waddle into my arms, calling me softly, "Mama." He would also ride on Marcus's neck, giggling and saying, "Papa, fly high." Whenever that happened, I felt like I was the happiest person in the world. The past pain, although still there, but it was no longer my shackles. Instead, it became a part of my life, reminding me to cherish the happiness before me even more. That child I lost, he didn't leave. He transformed into stars in the sky, into the sea breeze blowing past my ear, into the gentlest longing in my heart. He and I and Marcus and Stellan are together forever. No hate, only love. In every ordinary and warm day in the future,